My coworker accused me of harassment to advance her career. Hi, everyone. I'm Mike, a 29-year-old software developer living in Seattle. I've been working at a tech startup called Tech for the past 4 years. Everything was going great until a few months ago when my life was turned upside down by a false accusation. This is my story. It all started with Ben, my best friend since college. Ben is 30, and we've been through a lot together. We were roommates in college, graduated at the same time, and even ended up working at Tech together. Ben was in the marketing department while I handled software development. We were inseparable, both at work and outside of it, often spending weekends hiking, gaming, or grabbing beers. At Tech, I worked closely with Lisa, a 27-year-old product manager. Lisa was ambitious, sharp, and driven, qualities that made her a star in the company. She was responsible for coordinating between different departments, and our interactions were mostly professional. Lisa and Ben didn't get along very well, but I chalked it up to personality differences and didn't think much of it. Then came the new project, a high-stakes software release that could make or break the company's future. The pressure was immense, and tensions were high. Lisa was the project lead, and I was one of the main developers. We were putting in long hours, often staying late into the night to meet the deadlines. One evening, while I was buried in code, Lisa came over to discuss some last-minute changes. We were alone in the office, and the atmosphere was tense but focused. After a long discussion, we finally wrapped up and went home. I thought nothing of it until the next morning when I walked into the office to find everyone staring at me. Ben was waiting by my desk, looking uncharacteristically serious. He pulled me aside and told me that Lisa had accused me of harassment. I was stunned. My mind raced as I tried to comprehend what he was saying. Ben explained that Lisa had gone to HR first thing in the morning, claiming that I had made inappropriate advances during our late-night work session. My immediate reaction was disbelief. I had always maintained a strictly professional relationship with Lisa. I couldn't understand why she would make such a claim. Ben, however, seemed to believe her. He said that Lisa had shown HR some messages, and they were damning. I demanded to see them. HR called me in for a meeting. Sitting across from the HR manager, Carol, and Lisa, I felt a knot in my stomach. Carol handed me printouts of the supposed messages. They were texts from my number, filled with inappropriate comments and suggestive language. My heart sank. I knew I hadn't sent those messages. Lisa sat there, a look of cold satisfaction on her face. She reiterated her accusations, describing in detail how uncomfortable and unsafe she felt working with me. I tried to defend myself, explaining that the messages were fake, that I had never sent them, but it felt like shouting into the void. Carol told me that I was being put on administrative leave pending an investigation. Leaving the office that day was surreal. Ben avoided me, and I could feel the weight of judgment from my coworkers. Word spread quickly, and by the end of the day, everyone knew. I felt humiliated and betrayed. I couldn't understand why Lisa would do this to me. What motive could she possibly have? I spent the next few days in a daze, trying to piece together what had happened. I went through my phone records, looking for any evidence that could prove my innocence, but there was nothing. The messages had been sent from my number, but I hadn't sent them. It was like being trapped in a nightmare. Desperate for support, I reached out to Ben, hoping he would stand by me. But Ben was distant and cold. He said that while he found it hard to believe, the evidence was against me, and he couldn't ignore that. His words cut deep. We had been through so much together, and now he was turning his back on me. The investigation dragged on, and my life fell apart. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. My career, my friendships, everything was in jeopardy. I decided to hire a lawyer, hoping to clear my name. My lawyer, Emily, was sharp and determined. She believed in my innocence and was ready to fight for me. Emily started by requesting a detailed audit of the messages. She suspected that someone had spoofed my number to send the texts. This was a complex process, involving tech experts and forensic analysis. While we waited for the results, Emily advised me to stay low and avoid contact with anyone from work. Days turned into weeks. The isolation was suffocating. My family was supportive but worried. They knew how much my job and reputation meant to me. I spent hours poring over every interaction I'd had with Lisa, trying to find some clue, some reason for her to target me. But nothing made sense. Then, one evening, I received a call from Emily. She had found something. The forensic analysis showed that the messages were indeed sent from my number, but not from my phone. They had been spoofed. This was the breakthrough we needed. Emily believed we could prove my innocence. Armed with this new evidence, we requested another meeting with HR. Carol, looking weary and skeptical, agreed to hear us out. Emily presented the findings, detailing how the messages had been sent using a third-party service that masked the true origin. Carol seemed taken aback but not entirely convinced. She wanted to know why someone would go to such lengths to frame me. That's when Emily revealed another piece of evidence. She had discovered that Lisa had been in contact with a tech specialist who had the skills to spoof messages. This specialist was none other than Lisa's ex-boyfriend, Mark, who had a grudge against Innovatech after being fired for misconduct. The pieces were starting to fall into place. Lisa's demeanor shifted. She went from confident to defensive in a matter of seconds. She denied everything, but the tension in the room was palpable. Emily pressed on, suggesting that Lisa and Mark had conspired to fabricate the harassment claims to get me fired. Lisa lashed out, accusing us of fabricating evidence and trying to ruin her career. Carol decided to escalate the investigation. She brought in an independent investigator to review all the evidence. I was reinstated at work but kept under close scrutiny. The atmosphere was still hostile, and I felt like an outcast. Ben's behavior was particularly baffling. He kept his distance, and I couldn't understand why he wouldn't believe me. The independent investigator, a meticulous and impartial expert named Greg, conducted a thorough review. He interviewed everyone involved, including Lisa and Mark. He dug into their communications, uncovering a web of deceit. It turned out that Lisa and Mark had indeed conspired to frame me. They had used Mark's technical skills to send the fake messages and had planned to use the resulting scandal to advance Lisa's position at Innovatech. Greg's report was damning. It exonerated me completely and exposed Lisa's malicious plot. Carol called me into her office to deliver the news. She apologized for the ordeal I had been put through and assured me that Lisa would be terminated immediately. I felt a mix of relief and anger. My name was cleared, but the damage had been done. Lisa was fired, and a company-wide announcement was made to clarify the situation. My coworkers' attitudes slowly shifted from suspicion to awkward sympathy. Ben, however, was a different story. He approached me one day looking remorseful. He admitted that he had doubted me because he had been manipulated by Lisa. She had convinced him that I was guilty, playing on his fears and insecurities. I listened to Ben's apology, but it was hard to forgive him completely. The betrayal had cut too deep. We tried to rebuild our friendship, but things were never the same. The trust was broken, and there was an unspoken tension between us. Life at Innovatech eventually returned to normal, but I was changed. The experience left me wary and guarded. I threw myself into my work, determined to prove my worth and rebuild my reputation. Emily, who had become more than just my lawyer, remained a steadfast ally. We became close friends, bonded by the ordeal we had overcome together. Looking back, I still can't believe how quickly my life was turned upside down by a false accusation. It taught me a lot about trust, betrayal, and resilience. I learned that sometimes the people you think you know best can turn out to be the most unpredictable. If there's one piece of advice I can give, it's this: never take things at face value. Always dig deeper, and don't be afraid to fight for the truth. The journey might be tough, but in the end, it's worth it to reclaim your life and your dignity.